Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to another chat with myself and Rob Bradstock. So today we're talking about probabilities because Rob wants to talk about them. It's as simple as that. So we have kind of covered this on another talk. I'll link that up below. But as far as I know from Rob, it's your favorite subject. So we're going to launch into that. So I'll just give some structure to that because, of course, man, this is a deep subject. So we're going to look at what they are, how they can help you, and then give you some practical advice on using them. That's the structure that we are going to weave in and out of, up and down and over, and hopefully get there at the end when we revisit it. So if you like this video, if you like this podcast, if you're on it, please do subscribe to the channel. Please like the video, hit the bell so that you know when the next one is coming. So welcome, Rob. It looks like spring has arrived in Ireland at last.
Yes. Yes, we have sun today. It's actually warm. It's probably only about 17 degrees centigrade, or about 62 Fahrenheit for anyone who's watching it from America. It's incredible. But they're talking about snow in a couple of days' time.
What is that about? The pleasure and the pain. Give a little bit, take a little bit, give a little, take a bit. Anyway. Yes. All right. Well, it's it's lovely weather here as well. So so this is about probabilities. If you're into the Seth material, this is a big chunk of it's almost like the foundation, if you like, that you get to having read the material for a little bit. You go, oh, okay, yeah, probability. So so why do you want to talk about it?
Well, I wanted to talk about it because to me it's probably one of the most helpful aspects of the Seth material, and how it can be so helpful as you move through your understanding and as you begin to create your reality more consciously. And I think that's the real reason that I want to talk about it. And to me, it makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense. And I think if people have an opportunity to understand it better, I think it's just going to enhance their lives in multiple ways. So that's really why I wanted to talk about it today.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. And I agree. I mean, when I so as you move through the Seth material or through your understanding of reality, if you like, once you get to probabilities, I think you do see that they're the foundation of how you can begin to change the life that you want. And choose yourself and be that conscious creator that you kind of feel you are. So probabilities, so it's a delightful subject. And I think, and as you say, if you can get your head around it, then you recognize that that's really the game. That's the game we're playing. We're playing a game of probabilities. So all right, so so it's an incredibly interesting, and it's so well worth revisiting time and time again. So, okay, so what we're going to do is probabilities, the idea of probabilities really extends quite far, okay, in terms of consciousness and souls and entities. We could say that they're all probabilities. So what we want to do is, I'm going to try to keep Rob limited a little bit, all right? I don't always succeed. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the home station and go, so the first question is, what are probabilities and what's the extent of them? So just a description, really. And then we'll find our way back in from that point. So that's an obvious question. What are they, and what's the extent of them?
Well, my understanding of probabilities, first of all, I think it's that what we tend to come into this world believing is that there's a fixed past, there's a fixed present, and there's a fixed future. The future doesn't seem, it feels like there are options in the future, but it feels kind of quite limited. Now, after reading Seth, my understanding began to expand a bit, and I realized that there are lines, although we're not actually in linear time, but just for the sake of argument, we're in a linear time. So there is a past.
Here we go, everybody. We're
future. So, but there are many. It seems quite easy to to realize that from your present in the future, there are various probabilities, possibilities.
Yes.
But according to Seth, there are also multiple probabilities in your past, in your present. So you're just tuning in to one probability. And he used an analogy which I've always found very, very helpful, which is, imagine that your life is on you're looking at a TV, you've got a program, you've tuned into a station and you're watching a program. So that is one probability. If you switch your dial and you go to another program, that's continuing on, and there's another story. Switch your dial to another one, there's something. So imagine that there's multiple TV programs, and you're in the one that you particularly like at the moment, but all of these other ones are occurring at the same time. Now, what Seth says is that you can switch stations if you want. And as we're working on co-creating our reality, changing our beliefs, part of that is being able to move in and out with these other probabilities, like switching TV stations.
Okay. All right, great. So let's just stop there for a second. All right. So what we're saying is, so you have your life as you think of it. Okay. So this is my life. So I live in a certain place. You know, I have a particular partner. I earn a certain amount of money in my bank account. Whatever it would be. This is my official reality according to me. Yeah, and that it's based on my beliefs, desires, and expectations, and my broader purpose. I'll throw that one in there. Something else we can talk about. Okay, that we're just exploring more and more. So all these things facilitate me to create a reality that looks like this and behaves like this. So what you're saying is that there is another reality that looks just as real as this. Yeah. So this is my official reality, but there's another station and the version of me that's in that reality thinks that that's its official reality, and onward we go. So there's a version of me where I'm not with the partner that I'm with. Yeah? There's a version of me where I don't have 3 children. There's another channel where I have hair. Whatever it would be, that all these channels exist and that we have the choice. So one, somebody has more money in their bank account, for example. Yeah. For one where they don't have an illness, whatever it is, and that we have the ability to change the channel so that we experience the reality that we would want to. But they're all real. So because all of the channels, all of the TV shows, if you like, on the TV channel, they're all real. They're all completely real. And when you're in them, they appear like they're the only one, like a dream. Yeah? But there's multiple realities, probabilities, and you can choose which one you want.
Yes. And it's important not to get too overwhelmed by all of this, because when you think about this, it seems like, oh my God, so there's multiple probabilities, and which one am I in? Am I in the right one, and all the rest of it? So I think it's just to begin with, just gently, just be aware of this, okay? And just digest it a little bit and just take it easy. But slowly, as you're doing the belief work, which we talked about earlier, and changing your reality, changing your beliefs, what happens is, for example, if you're doing the exercise to change your beliefs, and you're saying your phrase, you're doing the imagination, and you're having the expectation, what you can also do is focus in on the probability where that is happening. And because of what I've explained, that is already happening. So you don't have to change anything in your current probable line of your TV station. It's already happening in the other one, and therefore you don't have to use so much effort to make the change. By changing your beliefs, expectations, and using imagination, you automatically swap into that other probability, that other TV station, and often it's so seamless you won't even know that you've done it. But what you will know is that you feel considerably better. Now, before you started doing the reality creation work, this happened all the time, but you didn't know. The thing about it is, because we're trying to become conscious co-creators, it's another tool and another way to understand what's going on. And that's why I find it so fascinating.
Okay, cool. So let's go back to that bit there, because there's a few things again that are really important. So I think that it's acknowledging and recognizing that we do this all the time anyway. This is just how reality works. You know, it's a multiverse, if you like, and which is what science is telling. I saw something the other day, guys saying that you know, they got somewhat proof that it fits the maths model that the universe is being, the Big Bang's happening again and again, you know, simultaneously. That it's universes are just being created, you know, constantly. So this fits that now more official line of consciousness that we're exploring. So we live in a multiverse, and part of becoming the conscious creator is, first thing, recognizing that. Second one, recognizing that there's more than one you. And I think that's one of the challenges. So as you were talking there, and you're saying, you know, it can be overwhelming. You go, yeah, which me, which world am I in? You know, and that type of thing. So there's more than one you. Your consciousness, therefore, is not, the soul isn't what you think of it is, which we can talk about somewhere else, right? But for the sake of that, there are 10 stations, for example, and in all of those stations, in some degree, you have what you want. You could have a better bank account. You could have, you know, no pain in your knee or your elbow, whatever it is, and that the way to get those is recognize they already exist. So, as you say, efforting isn't something that you're doing. It's about relaxation and learning to change your beliefs. And when you do, you automatically attract, but it's not actually attracting, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's more like, and this is where these ideas of the law of attraction and probabilities are quite tricky. You know, you need to take on a different level, which is you're not attracting to yourself a new reality. You're essentially tuning into a reality that already exists, which I think is slightly different.
Yes, it is, and I think to me it's quite an important difference.
Yes,
because it's much more empowering.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what we talked about is this idea of probabilities in terms of the individual, i.e., you know, Dave Marshall, Robb Bradstock, Emily Smith, Bob Jones, whatever it would be. But obviously, this extends far beyond that. So what we're going to do now is just take a journey. So that's where you need to take us now, Robb. You need to take us a little bit beyond, but not too far that people's brains explode, but enough to go out so that we can come back. And it's almost like, you know, our language is so tricky, isn't it? You know, so it's just go step by step. That I suppose if this is true, there's a multiverse of individuals, then where does it go to? You know, how deep down the rabbit hole does it go? Which is obviously, as we know, limitless. But yeah, so how far does this go out? We'll use the term out, you know, from the individual.
Well, I mean, I suppose ultimately in to infinity, but I mean that's so impossible to even begin to get one's mind around that.
It just reminds me of Toy Story whenever everyone says that word. Yeah.
Yes.
Infinity
and beyond.
And
exactly.
beyond.
Yes. But I mean, let's just keep it as simple as we possibly can.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about the entity, the soul, and the entity and the soul being part of all it is. And so the entity decides that it wants to have various physical incarnations. And so there are probable, well, there are lives, there are adjacent lives. I call them I prefer to call it adjacent rather than past or future.
Yeah.
Because of the non-linear time aspect. I just find it's easier. So there are not only probable Davids and Robbs, there are probable other lifetimes, ones what we might refer to as our reincarnational selves, who are having experiences, and they have probabilities within their life. So it's an ultimate flexibility, I think, is the best way to describe it. And it means that the entity, your soul, has multiple possibilities to explore, so that there's no limitations. And I think that's basically as complicated as I'd like to go at that point.
Yeah. So if I take you back, if we use the analogy that you used first of all, the TV station, and we say, well, there's different TV shows going on where we look the same. I'm still David Marshall, you're still Rob Bradford or whatever. However, if we go out a little bit more, then the soul, we'll just leave it at that. The soul, the entity, the soul, whatever it is, has multiple TVs where it expresses itself into different lifetimes. So that in this one, I look like this, you like this as part of that consciousness. But in other ones, we're both aware of other lifetimes that we're involved in, if you like. So there's this multiple TVs with multiple channels where we're exploring, the soul is exploring things in a different time context. And we call that reincarnation. So we've got future ones in our terms, which apparently is over here to my right. And you've got past ones over here, but they're all happening. They're all happening, and they're all probabilities. They're all probable realities, all real to the people that are in them. However, they are probable realities of the broader self and also as of the individual self. So it kind of goes, and obviously beyond, because there's much more to reality than just physical. There's portions of the soul that has experiences that are non-physical. It's not like, physical reality is just one leaf on the tree, if you like, of all that is. So okay, so that's cool. All right, so we've got out pretty far there. So how can they help you? Let's just reiterate how they can, knowing all this can help. A couple of things, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good to know about this, but don't let it overwhelm you. It's just kind of interesting. Just be aware that there are these probabilities. Now, coming back to ourselves in this lifetime and dealing with the probabilities that are likely in this lifetime. For me to think that there is a probability where I'm going to be an astronaut is a fairly far-fetched probability. So I'm not going to worry about that. The probability the probabilities I'm more interested in are ones that seem to be more or less in line with my beliefs at the moment and the beliefs that I'm changing. Now, as you work through changing your beliefs and you do the exercises we talked about, another thing I think is really helpful is to connect with a future, so-called future, probable self that has already and is already holding those new beliefs and is having that experience that they would be having if those beliefs were a fact. So, for example, I'll just give just a very...
Your dogs are having some fun there.
Yes, sorry about
it's not too loud.
Sorry about the dogs. Yes, but
that's all right.
Something there's a fox or a squirrel or something, or maybe a human or somebody. They feel that they need to protect us from. But I think the thing about it is that when you're doing this belief changing, when you realize that this future probable self already exists and you can tune into that self, you can, by being very quiet and very looking inwards, you can connect with that future self, that future probable self.
So
yes.
How? Yes, because specifically, can you give something that somebody could specifically use to, maybe they can say a particular thing in their mind, or how do you do it, for example?
Well, how do I connect with my future self?
Yes.
I think when I'm doing the belief work, repeating the new belief, using the imagination. I think it's around using the imagination. I imagine how I would feel, and I can see and feel that future Rob feeling different from what I'm feeling now. I mean, supposing I'm changing a belief about health, for example, I imagine that future Rob doing something which really shows that his beliefs about health have changed, for example.
Okay. So if somebody's got a sore knee, right, sore
Yes.
elbow, whatever it is, yeah.
Yes.
If someone's got tennis elbow and they can't play tennis, right? Okay,
Yes.
and they love tennis,
Yes.
they can choose to begin to do the belief work that we've talked about in other conversations,
Yes.
and then by doing that thing, they will quite automatically begin to create, should I say, not attract, to create the reality where they are changing probabilities, and by then imagining themselves playing that stroke, feeling how good it feels to play tennis. You know what I mean? Imagining hitting the ball, whatever gives them the more pleasure, I suppose I would maybe say, something that's emotive, whatever, then that is a way that they can begin to tune into that other probable version of themselves.
Yes. I mean, for example, if you have a sore knee, you could perhaps imagine that you're bicycling, that you're cycling, you're going on a cycling trip, and you're just feeling so great, and you're looking down at your knee is just fantastic, and by doing that, you're working with probabilities. That's how it works.
Yes.
Now, there's another thing that is quite useful as well. Just to go back to the TV station analogy for a moment. Yep. Now, remember that the probable TV stations are continuing along, and at certain points in your life, and almost everyone probably knows that there are certain points where you made a decision which completely changed what happened next. Maybe at school, somebody said to you, "Oh, you're useless at art," or something, and you decided, "Oh, I'm useless at art," and you gave up doing that. But if that person hadn't said that, for example, you might have gone on to become an artist, and that probability still exists. So say in later life, perhaps you're, I don't know, you're between jobs, or maybe you're retired or something like that. You could connect in with that probability that has gone on to be an artist because it exists.
Using the same, using the same method. So it might be,
yes.
an analogy might be, so for example, and that's a good one. So you like art, you really enjoy it when you're younger, you've got a talent for it. So by nature, you enjoy it. You're drawn to it innately. You just feel it's a create, and I have the same with writing. That's my analogy of that. Then at a certain point, for some reason, something happens, you make the decision that you're not an artist. You're no good, whatever it is. Essentially, another TV station is created, if you like. And then they both continue on in parallel. One becomes the artist and one doesn't. Yeah?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so you can actually start to connect with that probable self who has those amazing talents. And you can receive information in dreams, in meditation, time, psychological time, which we talked about, or just by getting quiet and maybe just starting to do some painting and just letting that sort of intuitive self, those hunches, that part of yourself that's connected with your inner self, which also knows about those other probabilities, allow that information to come through. And it may to begin with seem a little odd, but you may find actually that you make a surprising acceleration in your artwork. It may be that you go to an art class and then suddenly you find yourself producing stuff and you think, God, how can I know this? And it's because your probable artist exists and you're communicating with. And of course, the information that you have from your knowledge in your lifetime can go across to that probability as well. Now, you may not know what that is, but there is an interflow, an interplay going on all the time. And I think what's wonderful about it is that you realize that there are multiple selves with multiple talents and that you can draw upon this information. And the more you can do it consciously, the more in a way it's going to enhance your life. And I think that's, just to go back to the beginning, that's why I find probabilities so interesting.
I mean, I'll give you an example of that, exactly that. So I had a friend where I was, when I was doing some channeling many, many years ago, and this guy had very low self-esteem. So it was the husband of the lady's house where I was doing the channeling with Aaron, and he had very low self-esteem. For some reason, he decided that he felt a bit better about himself. He actually lost his job, right? Started to feel better for some reason, and picked up, I think they were just pencils that he picked up. And within 6 months, he was a full-time paid artist. The art that he did was astounding. I mean, he now does this for a living and is doing very well at it. And it was a really interesting thing to see that as soon as he decided he wanted something different in his life, unconsciously or consciously, he began to tune in to that very skilled artist, and and off he went. It was the most astounding thing I've ever seen. It was nobody believed that he'd actually done them. They were going, you cannot have done that, because 6 months ago you were driving a truck, and we're not interested in life, and now look at what you're doing. So yeah, astounding. Yeah.
Yes, and I think your inner self will guide you towards the best possible path that you can take. Of course there are multiple paths, and you have free will and everything, but I think it's just fascinating to me that all of these other selves exist, and that you can draw upon that energy, and you can return it as well. And that I mean, I have this thing about I love languages, and I know that one of the reasons that I speak French and Spanish reasonably well, and I have a bit of a flair for it, is because of another probable self. And I can think of many examples of it. So it can be really useful just to entertain this idea, think about it a bit, and just see if you can perhaps do a little exercise to connect with a probable self. See if you can get some information, just in a very playful way, and incorporate it into your conscious creating program. That's
brilliant. And I think just to realize that there's all these ideas of the law of attraction, and you've got to do all these rituals to attract, what I mean, and all that stuff through. You can look at any religion, the praying, trying to please let me have whatever, all that kind of stuff. And it was never any of that. It was never any of that. It was always that we live and exist within a multiverse, a multiple reality, and therefore whatever you focus on, whether it's spending time prayer or meditating or whatever it would be, what you're really doing is creating new probabilities for yourself, tuning into probabilities that already exist. So people have the power. You have the power. If you're watching this, that's what I want to get across. It's not that this is anything new. It's just like science is discovering there's a multiverse, Seth material enlightening us that there is, and that you can practically use it, and you can create. That's why you create your own reality. It's almost like the backdrop of reality is created for us by the broader self, the entity, the soul, if you like. And the way that we become conscious creators is to learn how to weave in and out of and choose probabilities. And that's really it. Because they all exist anyway, whether you want a bit more money, or you want to play tennis, or want to get better at guitar, or whatever it would be, so okay, brilliant. So I hope that's so. Let's go. So we're going to just go over the 3 questions again, and a lot of this, I will just say, in the Seth material, it does talk about value fulfillment, which is do stuff that you enjoy, focus on stuff you're interested in, and it might be, I'm going to suggest it is easier for you to tune into those impulses, and that type of thing, because the resistance is less, so value fulfillment, doing things that you're here to do and enjoy, I think makes working and using probabilities easier.
And that's
rather
why,
than going, rather than going, I want to be an astronaut and I'm not going to be happy unless I'm an astronaut. I demand to be an astronaut or I'm not bloody happy. That is, and I've been down that route, not being an astronaut. But, you know, I've had those feelings of going, no, it has to go this way, you know, and actually that's not what you came here to do. Sorry, what were you going to say there, Rob?
Well, I was just going to say that if you try to do something that really isn't within your sort of scope, like trying to be an astronaut, then you're going to meet so many obstacles that, you know, it's going to be very, very discouraging. So I completely agree with you. Do the things that you really like doing. But you can be adventurous, you know, try some different things, and you'll know very soon whether it's the right thing for you. You'll feel a sense of accomplishment. You'll feel this value fulfillment that Seth talks about. And when you focus on it, you know, you draw all of that energy around you, and it helps you create. So the probabilities are what you're going to enter into as you do that process that we've talked about already.
Yeah. I mean, and that's an interesting thing to see, which is, so say you want to be, so here I am, you know, say, right, you know, I've had no astronaut training, right, but I demand to be an astronaut, right? So I can create probabilities where I get closer to that, to some other degree, and I have no idea how they would play out. But I could do that. But the fact is, the obstacles, given the nature of the fact that probability is so far removed from where I'm at, you know, eventually, of course, it's like struggling uphill. You know, why bother? So start from where you're at. You know, start from where you're at and think, okay, would I like some more money in my bank account and financial security? Okay. Would I like to pick up a hobby? So I've got my guitar. You know, would I like to focus on really getting a lot better at my guitar? Okay. Would I like to improve my relationship or have a relationship? Do you know what I mean? It's like, start from where you're at and use that as the platform rather than going, as I said to somebody fairly recently, look, you create your own reality. And we were having a conversation. He said, yeah, but I can't bloody fly, can I? Right. And that was the excuse to not bother. Try. Do you know what I mean? It's like, don't be that person that has to go so far out to prove it doesn't work. Start from where you're at and use that as the seed, if you like, of from where you're going to go. Yeah, that would be my thought on that. So so let's just go back to the three questions that we had. So in summary, I'm looking at Rob through the camera going summary there, because we're going to go, wow, all this kind of stuff. So in summary, describe what probabilities are.
Probabilities are paths that you could take in your life that already exist.
Boom. Love it. Yeah, that's nice. I just said boom. Yeah, that was an enthusiast.
I was being very succinct there.
You were, but I think that's great. That, you know, there are paths that you have taken, even, you know, where you look like this, that you are not experiencing, and they are open and available to you. Great. Okay, cool. So practical steps are, let's go down to 3 practical steps. Reach out towards, so the first one, recognize that they already exist. So there's no efforting. You don't have to do any rituals or pray to any god or Waboon, lord of the underworld, or put a feather in your ear. Or, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You don't have to put salt around your room to protect you from the, you know, all the stuff that I've heard over the years. You don't have to do any of that. Okay. But these exist, and by the use of conscious visualization, right? So we use that one and work with your beliefs. You then begin to create the experience where you are creating that reality. That's your experience. Yeah. Anything else?
And use your connection with that future probability when you're in the process of changing beliefs, knowing that future probability already exists. Find a way to connect with that self through imagination, through quiet time. And if you're thinking about changing path in your life, be aware that there is another probability that's already probably quite far down that path, so you can use that knowledge and ability to enhance and really become that self.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
And let's just throw in dreams as well. You can work in that in your dreams.
Yes.
And so the goal is really to become aware that they exist, to recognize they are open and available to you, and then use these techniques to begin to tune in. And of course, it will be in a time context, which means it is a future self. I'm doing this in inverted commas because time is simultaneous. So it'll appear like a future self that you're tuning into, but in reality, you're tuning into somebody that right now, has those experiences that you want. So you don't have to even reach into the future. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just the context it will be put in. It's openly available to you right now. Excellent. Okay. So I think that sums up probability. So have you done what you wanted to do?
Yes, I think I have, and I hope that it's really helped people who are watching or listening to this. And as always, I think just remember, have fun with it. You don't have to take it all too deadly seriously. Enjoy the experience, and trust what information you get from your probable selves, and just see where it leads you. And as always, if you have any questions or experiences that you want to share, just do what you normally do. Leave a message for us, and I hope this helps you. And really enjoyed chatting about one of my favorite subjects with you, David.
Yeah, it's one of my say. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I think it just cannot. It can only help to just go over and over and over this stuff, as you begin to do that, and obviously then begin to combine, you work with your inner senses and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, it's great. So great. So yeah, so I think you've achieved your goal as well. So that's brilliant. So okay, well, I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much, Rob. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, hit the bell, and all the stuff that I'm told we should be doing on YouTube, and all the podcasts whenever you get this. Please comment below any questions at all. And I do have an idea of a next video that's fleeted into my mind, and it's now gone off in the other direction. So, and on a final note, I would say, just in practical terms, get yourself a notebook and think of it as a kind of fun project. And I find really useful just writing down thoughts of a day, of an evening or something about what I'm trying to create, and then just close it, let it move on. And I find that I have a book per project that I'm working on. And I find that personally a useful way to do it. So excellent. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Rob. We'll wait for the cold snap to come.
Yes. Well, I will give news of the April snow next week, hopefully. Yeah. But of course, that is only a probability. And as we know, it might not occur. So because I will report back.
Exactly, because we do obviously have a hand in the weather, because it is our reality. Yes.
Yes.
Could be a whole other conversation. So brilliant. Yes. All right. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Rob. And we will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Out. Nice one.